Maybe if I can just get back into my work. I mean, there's so much going on. There's too much going on. I still can't believe what was that last night? Maybe I could pretend it didn't happen. Maybe it didn't happen. Maybe it did. What was he saying? Something about an incantation. Yog something. I don't know. Am I losing my mind? Maybe I am losing my mind. Maybe I'm reaching a new state of awareness. God help me. Save me. He's coming.
I'm gonna lock that. What's that? Shawn, is that you? Welcome to Smashing Plastic. Today we're going to review Eldritch Horror, where we get to look through the veil of reality into the insanity of the insane, where the world is going to be destroyed.
Fantasy Flight Games released this. It's an adventure that sort of tells the tale of valiant heroes trying to stop the end of the world, but I'm afraid you'll find that Corey Knitska and Nikki Valens, they made it very difficult.
Almost impossible.
Eldritch Horror is 100% theme. It tells the stories, or it combines the stories of H.P. Lovecraft. Who's that guy? He is a horror author from the turn of the last century. Many modern horror authors, the Stephen Kings and so on, they will quote or they will reference HPL as being like the grandfather of modern horror. He is what made horror writing what it is today. His style of horror was very cosmic. It was great, humongous gods that didn't care about humanity like we wouldn't care about ants. And ants we are as we get crushed under the boot of these horrific cosmic monsters that come down from the stars when the stars are once again aligned and crush us, destroy us, leave nothing alive. Now, if you're not familiar with HPL, it's probably a good idea you check something of his out, because without that, you know, it's all this game is theme. Check out his stories online. They were all written without a license at the time, so nothing's protected by copyright and whatnot. Check out podcasts like the HP Lovecraft Literary Podcast from hppodcraft.com. They do a half-an-hour episode looking at every story, and they started in chronological order, so you can go from his early works to his late works. Also, look for bands like the Darkest of the Hillside Thickets. It's a punk rock band that draws all of their inspiration from HPL.
So in Eldritch Horror, each player takes the role of one of these investigators. Now, if we're to be critical of this game, you need at least 4 investigators need to come close to victory. Now, what these guys are doing is they're traveling around the globe in an Indiana Jones kind of way, solving mysteries, fighting cultists, all in an attempt to try and stop the manifestation of one of these horror gods of horror that are trying to destroy the planet in many different kinds of ways.
Now, there's 4 Elder Gods in total, unless you get the Forsaken Lore expansion, which adds a 5th one. And the reason why this expansion is important is because it doesn't expand the game laterally, it expands it vertically, it just adds depth. There's no new mechanics as much as there is heaps and heaps of extra cards. It almost doubles the number of little events and little things that happen during the game.
So in true Fantasy Flight style, they've done a great job with the components. So we've got little hearts for your life and little brains for your sanity, and
tentacle-based things for horrific spots on the earth,
and your little magnifying glasses for investigations and clues, and your little standees of your investigators are great as well. You can also order these fantastic Eldritch Horror dice, which have got little runes all over them and that kind of thing.
Now, a really cool bit is that a lot of that theme, it's all there. I mean, your character card's a passport, and on the back of the passport's a story, and I mean, everything's dripping with theme. And sometimes, though, a real HPL fan might be a bit put off by that, because his writing has a lot of the unnamed and the unknowable, and here, you get a picture of the unseen, and it's a bit too literal.
The setup for Eldritch Horror is a bit of a jog, because there's a lot of components that you've got to lay out, but once it hits the table, it looks pretty great.
It looks awesome.
So if you have a look down this side of the board here, what we've got is location cards. So if I happen to be in Shanghai, in the purple region, what I would do is pull out the purple card, and it's going to tell me what's happening in Shanghai. And over this side of the board is where you have Cthulhu in this instance, where you build a Mythos deck. Now the Mythos deck tells you how Cthulhu is going to go about bringing down the demise of the planet.
So as a player trying to, move around in this hot mess, you got a handful of actions you can do per character, 2 actions per turn. And you get all the way around the board, and you start drawing cards off the Mythos deck, and that's when bad things start to happen. our goal is to try to solve these mysteries, and usually if you solve 3 of these, then you've saved the world, but I mean, don't count on solving many of these. Now, to do actions, you can do a handful of things. You can move 1 space around the board. You can buy these boat tickets and these train tickets. These will get you an extra space. During my move action, I can take a boat somewhere else. You can also try to buy things out of the reserve, and the way you do that is each character's got a bit of influence, and you roll your dice, and depending on the number of successes you have, you're going to be able to buy 1 or 2 of these things off the board. You can even take things like bank loans, and that's where the game gets really tricky. There's all these different effects that happen to you during the game that can give you bonuses and penalties, and it's one of our favorite mechanics that this thing has. So let's say I take a debt so I can buy, the witch doctor to help out one of my players. Now, it's got some penalties on it that says, as a local action, I can make a test of influence to see if I can get rid of this debt. But this little symbol right here, those mythos cards, some of them are going to hold this symbol, which means you need to activate this card. So you flip that sucker over and you see, I've got to make a deal with a pretty bad dude. Now, each of these has it. If I got a leg injury, or if I'm got a back injury, when this card flips over, all these terrible effects are going to start happening, and Lord knows what this thing has. I've never been through the deck to look at all these different effects and what they do. And getting that expansion makes the deck twice as tall. So which debt am I going to have? How bad is that back injury? You just don't know.
So after the players have finished taking their actions, you go into the encounter phase. And depending on where you are, depends on what happens. So if you're in a region, as we discussed before, you pull a region card. Or if you're trying to solve a mystery, you pull a mystery card. Or if you happen to be where there's a portal that's spitting out all these horrible monsters and you're trying to close it.
Now, speaking of monsters, that's another thing you have to deal with is these portals are going to be popping up all over the world and spitting out zombies and star spawn and goat creatures and horrors from beyond the moon. And
they tend to be relentless and follow you wherever you go.
Sometimes they move about, sometimes they chase you, and you might have to do battle with them before you even get a chance to do an encounter in an area, solving mysteries. Now, the way you have these encounters throughout the game, whether it's a monster or whatever it is you usually have to roll some dice depending on your stats. So say you got strength 3, roll 3 dice. If you can roll 1 die that has a 5 or a 6 on it, counts as a success and you're on your way. If you fail though, something bad is probably going to happen to your sanity and you're going to be throwing away some of these beautiful tokens, or maybe they'll...
You slowly lose your mind.
Or carve out your heart, or cut off your limbs and into your back.
The mechanics of Eldritch Horror are pretty straightforward. You take an action, you turn a card over, you do what the card says, you roll some dice. But where it gets great is if you invest in what's written in the cards and if you invest in the story. But the problem with that happens occasionally is that the stories don't quite line up. The chapters might be in the wrong order. But for the most part, the stories line up and it's great.
As you can see, there's so many different ways you can play this game and so many different elements you can just dive into and enjoy. It's an adventure game at its heart, so having adventure is really important, but it's hard, it's difficult, it's so many different ways to lose. And for a game about trying to rescue the Earth, you don't want it to be easy. To lose, you can advance the Doom track to 0 and then you flip the God card over and there's some terrible thing that happens on the back, or you might have portal cards or encounter cards or mystery cards that all have different things that say, you have to race to get this done, or it's all coming to an end. It's so good. There's so much story here. It can really draw you in and really just lock you down.
Pretty good.